So here, let me move on to Katie. And
Hey
let's
there.
see. How are you? How's everything?
I'm excellent. I feel like you guys have been awake for a really long time. So thanks for
Absolutely.
still being excited.
Oh, are you kidding me? This is great. Today's been excellent. It's just the energy and just everything has as it's been going. Phenomenal. I'm really happy to do this. It's really just the energy that keeps just keeps us going. There's so much buzz, and we're watching Twitter and getting questions and watching the chat and watching more and more people either log in or as different time zones come through. As even as they finish work, they're staying at work longer to keep watching some of these. So this is great.
Love it.
Now, just a quick introduction. Now, I don't know if a lot of people in the community have. Well, I'm pretty sure they know who you are now. After TC, she is a proud Cajun, as well as a data enthusiast. She also leads the InterWorks training team, and well, dreams of fun everyday occurrences. It should be beautiful visualizations. So here to talk about a couple's journey into financial independence with Tableau. I introduce Katie Wagner.
Fantastic. So I really do feel so honored to be part of this lineup today. We've had some amazing conversations throughout the day. One that really spoke to me was about work-life balance in the panel of our consulting founders. And I really want you to sort of jump back into that frame of mind as we think about this journey to financial independence and these words that might be newer to some pieces of the Tableau community. So if you could for a minute, I want you to imagine that you're on your very first date with your significant other. And you're talking about all kinds of wonderful things, your favorite vacations, where you want to visit. You're thinking about what your goals are in life. You're having great conversations about where that next date might be. And then the topic of finances comes up. Kind of a buzzkill for most of us, not first date material typically. But when you see that look of excitement in someone's face and talking about a concept that money, right? A little taboo maybe, but something that couples most of the time can be fairly aligned on. So this is a situation that, of course, I was in with my husband about 4 years ago when we started dating. And he mentioned the phrase fire. And so I started thinking, well, okay, I wonder what that means in relation to finances. He described it to me as being financially independent and retiring early. And y'all, I laughed because like, who gets to retire early, right? That's a dream and it sounds fun, but in reality, how does that even work? Okay, so you're excited though. I'll keep listening. And so we continue the conversation. Now, I was raised in a fairly frugal house. My parents do value saving money. And so I feel like I have those good principles. But fast forward to the position that my husband and I are in now, and I want you to think about this phrase a little differently. I want you to focus on being financially independent and what that could mean for you. I want you to think about being able to spend your entire day building Tableau dashboards for a local nonprofit. Or think about being able to spend your mornings volunteering at your local food bank, and maybe you take the afternoon to go explore some new trails on your bike. Many of us really love our jobs. I absolutely love the work that I do with InterWorks. I love teaching people about Tableau. So for me and for our family, this goal is not about the stereotypical retirement, retiring early. It's about having that freedom and flexibility to get there. So because this is an environment that I feel passionate about, and I want to link that up to other areas that I feel passionate about, of course, Tableau became an option. I had to learn a little bit about this FIRE community as we were getting started. So I listened to a great podcast called Choose FI. And I also read a couple of blogs, kind of some getting started material from Mr. Money Mustache. And what I learned was that one of the goals that you're striving towards to reach this financially independent number is going to be 25 times your annual expenses as a household. So I want you to keep that in mind, 25 times your annual expenses in your house. You might be thinking, I think I know how much money I spend. I'm not sure. I know how much money I make, I hope. So we need to get some more insight into this. I think one of the confusing pieces of FIRE is that we make a lot of assumptions about what this path looks like. There are many different aspects to achieving this financial independence goal. For our family, it comes down to a few things. How can we monitor and decrease our expenses? Are we ensuring that we're making wise investments? And then what would be some routes that we could explore to supplement some of the income that we might need when we are financially independent? So maybe things like our first rental property that we have this year, or maybe starting a blog and who knows, making a couple of bucks from it. But what I want to jump into today is really focusing on the area I feel most comfortable in today as I'm learning this FIRE journey. And that's how we can use something like Tableau to monitor and hopefully decrease our household expenses. So it's got to start with where. Where can I get this information? Because I would imagine that many of you have a credit card, maybe a debit card, maybe some sort of investment account, and we need to link to that data. We need to collect it in a single place. Now, there's a ton of tools that can do this for you. Our family chooses Personal Capital. We like the net worth tracker that Personal Capital provides, but there's lots of great opportunities. Or you could do that process manually. It's completely up to you because this is your journey and you get to decide what the rules are. The one piece that I find challenging about working in this kind of FIRE mindset is making sure that our data is accurate. Tools like Personal Capital do a pretty good job of identifying what category that transaction should fall under, but it's not perfect. So for instance, any of you that ever have been to the Midwest of the US, you may have visited a store called Brahms, which for most people in our current home state of Oklahoma, they'd think of this as a fast food restaurant. Where can I go to get a burger? But we use Brahms for their fresh market, and we grab things like milk or bread. So I do need to make sure that for our data to be accurate, we're recording that information. And so I can use something like the Personal Capital app. And yes, I do have to look at it every day or every few days, but that way I'm ensuring that our data is as accurate as possible. Another thing that we need to consider on this financial journey, especially with Tableau, is being transparent. It's tough to stand up here and talk about money with people, but there are ways to do it where we can share and sometimes commiserate in the journey together. So let's think about what happens after the data is collected. For our process, this is not something that we work through every day. We might look at our finances quarterly, or maybe at the most monthly. I try not to bog down our everyday conversations with how much money we've spent this week. But we can pull a CSV of information, and we've chosen to place that information into Google Sheets to do our data manipulation. Some of the challenges that I've faced are going to be things like making sure the transaction date is correct for a transaction. If you get paid twice a month but you receive your December paycheck on November 30th, you might need to reallocate where that money should be contributed. Or you might want to tag the data. So imagine that you are sharing an Airbnb with a couple of friends, and you know that a portion of that transaction is reimbursable. For your expenses to be accurate, there is some data manipulation that you might choose to do. But once we've got it in its format, which doesn't take too long, we're just two people, we can bring that information into Tableau Desktop. So I'd like to share with you a variation of one of the dashboards that we've built. And this has gone through many iterations. And I think one of the best components of this journey is that our audience is super forgiving. When it's just you and your significant other looking at the data, you get to decide what those visualizations look like. So this is our current report for 2018, the financial health of our year. In the financial community, remember we said 25 times your annual expenses. Well, we've set a goal. And unfortunately, this year, we didn't hit that goal. But that's okay, because when we dig into the data, we know that we had some big changes this year. First of all, we were super fortunate to spend about 2 months in Australia and New Zealand helping out with InterWorks in those areas, but also traveling and having a lot of fun. So notice that you might see our travel budget increased a bit, our expenses increased during that time. If we take a look at an area like our mortgage, you can see that the mortgage hasn't been paid yet for this month, but otherwise it's been pretty consistent throughout time. And then if we think about something like, well, why would we have exceeded our limit? One of those contributing factors is that we've made the decision to move home. So we're purchasing a new house and we have moving expenses. And of course, we think that those are totally worth it. But looking at this data allows us to not just say we think we spend money in this area and be able to say we know what we spend money on. And it helps us to ask that question, do I really need that pizza? Or should I just eat the groceries that I purchased at the beginning of the week? And that becomes our decision to make. We are on our path to FI. You can see part of our journey there in terms of the finances. And in the FIRE community, most people will look for somewhere between a 40 to 50% savings rate. And this year we were able to get our after-tax savings rate up to 41. So a big accomplishment, but definitely always some room for improvement. One of the things that you might be concerned about in this topic and Tableau, I know for those of us using Tableau Public, we do have to save our information to the web. I'm going to be the first person to tell you that I encourage you to share all of your work. You know, Vince says it best, it doesn't have to be perfect, just put it up there. But in this particular case, if you want to protect that data, if you want to share, but make sure that it's still secure, two components on Tableau Public that might be helpful. One is the fact that you can remove the workbook from being downloaded. If you want to share your dashboard, maybe turn off the tooltips, but allow the visual component to be shared, that's an option. Or if you're really uncomfortable with sharing the information, maybe you've got actual numbers within the view, then you can choose for that viz to be hidden completely. So while I do encourage everyone to share, I do know that we want that extra level of security. Visualizing our financial journey inside of Tableau has helped me to learn new skills in the tool. It's helped us to make better decisions as a family. And it's also given me something that I can be passionate about, a project that I want to work on in my freedom time, in my financially independent time. So I hope you found some helpful tips. I'm looking forward to exploring this journey with all of you, and I can't wait to hear your questions as we all go on this fire path together. Thanks, everyone.
Katie, that was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Caesar.
I am dying to see if the audience has any questions. Let's see. Let's give them a minute or so to
Perfect.
take everything in. It was a lot of
all the words.
Yeah.
Hey, Katie, this is Emily. Just a real quick
Emily.
question. How long does it take you to get your data in, to do some of that data cleanup with, you know, how the bank captures or categorizes that data?
So if we're diligent about it, which I try to be, we can fix all of the transactions on the app. And most of the time they come through in the correct category, but we've got some specific things that we assign. So I would say that's like maybe 5 minutes a day, maybe. And sometimes I wait a couple of days. Exporting into the CSV is instant. And what I'd like about Google Sheets is that I've already changed some of our historical transactions. And so what I'm going to be adding in are the new records of data, which I know to be mostly true. So I would say that that time commitment is not very heavy. Sure, we could probably automate the process, but like I said, at this point, we're just looking at it every so often. So maybe an hour total. I think what takes me more time when we look at this together is ensuring that the numbers we're seeing are accurate in the checks and balances of credits and debits. And was that a reimbursable transaction? And if so, where did the money come in from? So those are the kinds of like accuracy questions that I find myself answering. But the process of building it in Tableau is super, super fast.
I love that you've built in a little bit of wiggle room too. Just, you know, being able to see this and go, you know what, maybe we didn't hit the goal, but we did get a chance to do all this traveling.
Yeah.
We got all this experience.
Yeah, I mean, Caesar, honestly, if I could say anything about this FIRE community, is that it's not about make your life miserable and save every single penny. It's about doing what you want to do. Why would you spend your years working towards that goal for financial independence, but not get to enjoy any of it along the way? So I think that there are definitely goals, and, you know, whatever, if it pushes you out by 6 months later than, you know, you wanted to hit that number, it's all a balancing act. And I think that it's good to continue having the conversation, but it's also nice to be able to make that decision to fly to New Zealand and go hang out for a while.
How often do you and your husband find, you know, that you're making you're asking that question, you know, should we spend this? And it sounds like you've got kind of a rubric put together already. Sure. Of whether or not it should go through or not.
I'll speak for myself. My husband's actually on the call, so hey, Jacob. But I'll speak for myself. I mean, I think some of the instances have simply just been looking at, you know, wow, I thought that I was pretty good about not spending money on frivolous things, or what I might consider frivolous, and now I get to see them. It's in my brain knowing that both of us are going to see that transaction if I pay whatever amount of money to have my car cleaned. But if at that point in time that's meaningful to me, then I feel okay making that decision. And it's something that we can talk about together, like with the new house purchase, really understanding how another mortgage was going to fit into our financial plan was super important. I have a difficult time taking that extra risk, but knowing the data made it so much easier. Yeah, Vince has a question in here. Challenges for pulling data from different financial sources. I have found that the tools that we've used both Mint and Personal Capital, do a fairly good job of pulling from different places. There have only been maybe 1 or 2 out of, let's say, 15 types of accounts that haven't been as easy to pull information from. But I like that it's all in one spot. I don't have to worry about exporting from each of the different locations. And I think that all of those tools do a fairly good job of bringing it together.
That's great. it's always eye-opening when you see that giant number of what you spent that month. You know, that tools like Mint, they'll give you kind of a, you know, hey, you were within budget this month. Not that I've ever set a budget, but it's actually really cool that it's got that there. But yeah, it's definitely an eye-opening experience when you find out what you spent, and the fact that you can visualize it and you can take a look at this just so frequently.
Right.
And you can share too.
Right. And it holds us accountable as well to have those conversations, to say, you know, hey, we set this goal at the beginning of the year, you know, have we met it? Have we not? It's nice to be able to be on the same page about those conversations.
Have you heard from folks in the fire community as help, pretty much asking for help visualizing their own data?
Are you like watching my computer, Caesar? Or have you been like stalking me all day? Okay. So I sent this message earlier today. There was someone from the fire community who I feel are you know, as active as the Tableau community, just maybe in a different way, who messaged me on Twitter today asking me for resources to learn about Tableau and other visualization tools. So I swear to you that had never happened until today. And it was because of Sarah Burnett's Viz Makeover Monday that I shared with the fire community, because they were asking, how much does it cost to live in Washington, D.C.? And so I shared the Makeover Monday Viz. We highlighted DC, and that has now sparked a whole conversation that I hope more people on the path to FI and all of their blogs and the information that they share, they increase the acceptance of the idea, and then they increase that data literacy by adding in the visualizations that kind of catch people's attention.
Yeah, you're somehow gapping, you're creating that the bridge between the two communities. That's excellent.
I hope so. We'll see. I'm just excited to get more people on the path. If I had more people to talk about, it helps, you know, become more motivating for all of us. And it gives me something that I enjoy spending my time in while I'm visualizing. So, you know, tying it back to the introduction you gave, I try to think about everyday life situations that make sense in a visualization. And this is one where the data is there. It's just a matter of pulling it together.
I'm kind of afraid to go through and visualize mine. Just not for myself, but if my wife ever saw it.
Yep, I've heard people say the same, and it's amazing when you look at it, how it can impact the way that you think about your finances, and being able to just skirt by and say, well, you know, I think that we cook at home more than we go out to eat at restaurants. But then you look at the dollar amount and you realize the significance of it. I think the best thing, just like the Tableau community, is this idea of no judgment. You spend your money the way that you want to, and you make that path whatever you want it to be. We just hope that that we can all kind of encourage each other along the way.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Thanks.
Cool.
Taking a quick look, see if there's anything on. Vince is telling me to pull the Band-Aid off.
Just do it.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's the way to do it. Well, cool. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. Hopefully you can share the TFF presentation with the fire community now too.
Absolutely.
So cool.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.